in collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
This week we discuss non-performing loans and politically exposed persons. Is there transparency?
We have to be completely transparent because many times we don't give the importance that we should to conflict of interest.
And with our cultural heritage and important monuments collapsing, we talk about how we can preserve them.
As the time is passing, and after these last two winters with heavy raining, we have much more problems.
And hear about a charity run by a Cypriot in Birmingham, helping needy people in the UK.
To see how we can support them in their living expenses, because the Ministry of Health was paying for their liver transplant but not for the waiting time.
Well, it's been headline news in the press here for, several weeks now. We're talking about the non-performing loans attributed to politically exposed persons. And there's been a list that hasn't yet been published that one of our committees in Parliament has asked to see. But it appears that there may be a conflict of interest with the chairman of that committee. So we're joined on the programme this week by Irini Haralambidou. She's an MP who sits on the Financial Control Committee. And they have asked that the Governor of the Central Bank come to their next meeting and discuss these very issues. Irini, this started way back, I think, in 2015 or thereabouts. We know that non-performing loans are a big problem in Cyprus, but we also know that there are quite a few politically exposed persons, some of them MPs themselves, who probably have non-performing loans or have had loans written off, and we keep saying we want transparency, but we don't appear to be getting it.
Yeah. You know that I am for transparency, and when it comes to lawmakers, like members of the parliament or ministers, it's a bit different than the rest of the politically exposed people, because they make the laws and they might give benefits to the banks and tools. So we have to be more strict when it comes to these two categories. Yes, we have to be completely transparent, because many times we don't give the importance that we should to conflict of interest. It's a huge conflict of interest to make laws for the banks and at the same time yourself to have non-performing loans. They might put pressure on you. They might handle in a different way your own loan. And there might have been some conditions on that loan that do not apply for the rest of the citizens. So if we want to honor the vote people gave us, we have to be transparent. People have the right to ask questions. If we don't want to be transparent, let's stay at our homes and not pursue public seats.
What is going to happen now? Because you've had several meetings in your committee, and I believe at the last one, the majority of committee members wanted to invite the Governor of the Central Bank to come and discuss all these issues, because he has sent a couple of letters, has he not, to the committee. Have you seen those letters?
No, he hasn't sent the letters to the committee. As you recall, the first time the list came to the Parliament, the President of the Parliament is the only one who has seen the list. He has returned the list to the Governor of the Central Bank, the new one. Georgakis sent it, Irodotou got it back. Then Irodotou sent a letter on the 4th of July asking some questions. I think from what I've read, he didn't get a response. So he sent a second letter on the 22nd of November. And this letter was forwarded instead to my committee. The questions first was raised from the Finance Committee, okay? But the President of the Parliament decided to send it to the Expenditure Control Committee. So when I realized that there was no action taken, I addressed my colleagues and the President of the committee, and I said, we cannot turn a blind eye to this because we will be exposed to the public opinion. We have to respond, and we have to invite the governor of the central bank to our committee in order to be informed about these non-performing loans. I have to say that it was a unanimous vote, except the president of the committee, who had a different mind, and then the president of the parliament came down, joined the meeting, and for an hour and 15 minutes, we were discussing the obvious. Instead of asking for a vote, and the votes would have been 8 against 1. Then a decision was made to send a letter to the governor. All the members, the suggestion was to write a very simple letter asking him to come. And then we found out a couple of days later that the president of the committee acted on his own, and he sent a letter setting up an agenda. And this letter might lead to a negative response from the central banker. So, since the president of the committee has so much authority in his hands, I don't know how this will turn out. Now, there is another issue. In 2015, as you said before, there was an accusation against the central banker that she gave to a newspaper this list.
And let's just clarify here for those who haven't followed all of this, we're talking about the now former central bank governor.
Yes, Christalla Iorgaci. And these accusations were made by a parliamentarian.
Do we know which parliamentarian?
Well, according to the publications, it was the president of the Expenditure Control Committee, Mr. Koulias. So there is a conflict of interest here. If Koulias turned against Iorgaci thinking that she released this list, how can he fight at the same time in order for this list to be, let's say, in the right hands and find out which of these loans were given or were handled in a way that it's not appropriate.
Preferentially.
Yeah.
So, where does that leave us now? You've got a letter that's gone to the central bank governor that you believe has been phrased in such a way that he is unlikely to come and discuss that agenda. What do you know what was in the letter about what the agenda was?
Yes, they were demanding from the governor to say whether having a non-performing loan is a criminal act, but this cannot be said by the governor. The governor can only give you the state of the loans, and then it's a matter of the Attorney General to decide and ask for an investigation. And mind you, back in 2013, I had to handle myself exactly the same situation with the loans of the Popular Bank and the way Yiannopoulos was giving away loans to ship owners and to journalists and to different people. It was a list of PwC, and I gave it out to public because I thought people should know what really was happening in Cyprus. So why should we have double standards when it comes to these matters?
Well, we shouldn't, and I think this is the important thing, isn't it? The public has come to be aware that they do have a right to, let's say, check up on the people who they voted to represent them in Parliament. Because if you're making laws, then it's fairly simple to make laws that suit you when other people are being taken to the cleaners because they have non-performing loans. So why should it be preferential for example, ministers, as you said, or MPs, or anybody else in a position of authority that has a responsibility, surely, to the rest of the public in Cyprus?
Okay. A question was raised over and over. Is any harm if an MP owns a non-performing loan? Okay. I will rephrase the question and I will ask if there is nothing to be afraid of, if there will be no political cost if a non-performing loan is published, then what's the problem? Personally, I would have done that, to say, I have a non-performing loan, this is how I got it, these are the terms of my loan, and I have the same treatment as every single citizen. So what's the problem to go out and admit having a non-performing loan if there will be no political cost because of the terms of that loan?
Right, but the other thing, of course, is if anybody has a non-performing loan, they are required to talk to their bank and try to restructure the loan agreement. Now, even if there's a dozen MPs on that list with non-performing loans, we also need to know, have they even been to the bank to try and restructure their loan, or is it been non-performing forever and they never intended to pay it back?
Yes, exactly. I agree with you. I mean, the issue here is that if there was not a preferential treatment, why should someone hesitate to admit having a non-performing loan? And then when we declare our assets, we should have declared the non-performing loans.
Yeah, well,
why nobody accepted doing that? This is a question to be raised again.
Well, you've just brought up a little bit of a prickly subject, and that is this question of the assets that are declared. And really, if you look at them, an awful lot of them just don't make any sense at all. They're not true, are they?
Well, I cannot comment on that because I don't know, and I always speak about things I do know and I can document. But for sure, we haven't convinced people, and we have to reconsider the way these statements are made. And non-performing loans should be included, and the restructuring of them.
So where do you go from here?
I will keep on asking questions and demanding for the central banker to come to the committee. And hopefully, since all my colleagues are on the same direction, on the same side with me, we'll manage to do that at the end.
But if your committee chairman can unilaterally, against the wishes of the whole committee, do something else, will it actually get you anywhere? Can I ask
Actually, I said to Mr. Goulias, I need to know the date. When are you planning to invite Mr. Herodotou to the committee? And he said, this is my decision to make.
So it could be never?
Yes, it could be never. Or it could be sometime soon if lots of pressure is put on him.
Right, can I ask, who decides who the chairman of the committees are? Who appoints the committees and the chairman?
Well, I think it's a negotiation among the parties. You get this committee, you get the other committee, president on this will be this person, on the other will be the other person.
And if there is even a perceived conflict of interest, is it possible to move somebody to a different committee?
There are no regulations, Rosie. I mean, in the plenary, many times they accuse us of parliamentarians voting in order to serve clients, or they vote for laws in order for self-serving reasons. So there are no strict regulations. There is not a code of conduct with consequences for those that they behave in
an unacceptable way.
Yeah.
Quite simply.
Yeah.
I wonder where it's all going to end. We've been talking to Akel MP Irini Haralambidou about that issue of non-performing loans and politically exposed persons who have them.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambis.
It seems that almost every day across the world we read or hear about cultural heritage either collapsing or even being destroyed. In Cyprus we have a very rich past, and a lot of our cultural heritage is disappearing slowly but very, very surely. The Bicommunal Technical Committee for Cultural Heritage is trying to halt that progress. They've been for years now restoring and renovating buildings that have value both to the Turkish Cypriot and the Greek Cypriot communities of Cyprus. The co-president of the Technical Committee is my next guest. He's Takis Hadjidimitriou, and he's going to tell us about the Church of Aya Paraskevi in the Famagusta area, because that has recently come up as one that is literally falling down, and there have been calls for the technical committee to do something about it. Takis,
Yes.
Tell us a bit about the history of the church. I think it's 16th century, isn't it?
Αγία Παρασκευή, it's in the knowledge of the technical committee. We are following the situation. Especially these days, our people, mechanical engineers and architects, are examining the situation of the church. Especially what we need to know this period of time is a preliminary assessment about the cost needed even for the support work.
I suppose that the cost is one of the major things that allows you or doesn't allow you to intervene. Where does the money come from?
This is the problem. This is the problem, because we have the very important support from the European Union, which is about 2 million per year. This means a small number of monuments. The last period of time we have a contribution from people involved in, and so we proceed with a new program of co-funded activities and support works or designs for monuments. And in this case, what we need to know is if there is any possibility the whole project and the Agία Παρασκευή to be funded in any way, because...
Do you know how much it's going to cost
this,
to actually do the renovation properly?
It's not a matter of renovation in this case. In this case, it's only a matter of support, not to collapse. Then we will see what we will do.
In the future?
In the future. 31st in January, we will meet the Bishop of Constantias, Vasilios, in the presence of the people involved, and we will discuss the whole issue, a preliminary assessment of the cost, and if there is any possibility for their contribution. We are not demanding a technical committee.
But one might expect
but
that the Church of Cyprus would be helping in some way, because these are things that can't be replaced.
Look, so this is the reason we will meet the Bishop to discuss with all the people involved. Famagusta has a great population. There are people, wealthy people, who can contribute it, but it is their own responsibility not only to come out indicating to us problems, but at the same time to help for the solution of the problem.
Right, now I think the roof has collapsed. So can you sort of cover that and, in a sense, protect the building from any further ravages by the rain we've had this year, so that there is something left to restore as and when the funds appear?
The intervention in the monument is a very complicated thing, very, very complicated thing. And solutions can be given according to the conditions of a monument. So we have to wait for the report of the archaeologists and
the engineers and so on.
How we'll proceed.
How do you decide what to prioritise? Because there are, as you said, so many monuments in various states of decay. what criteria does the technical committee use to decide that, well, we've got this money, we better spend it on this monument, church or mosque?
The problem is that we spent a long period of time to set up a list of monuments. We had the support even of the European Union in this case, and there is a relevant report covering 900 monuments. From these 900 monuments, 140 have been examined in a more detailed way. We are in cooperation with the Department of Antiquities. We are in cooperation with the Church. We have a list from all these institutions, and we set up our list of activities according to. In parallel, we have the co-funded monuments, which we proceed. And it's a third category, this what you mentioned, monuments collapsing, because now we are in the 46 years after 1974, after have been abandoned.
So there's been nobody looking after them. And very quickly, finally, because we're short of time, I know that something you've just started, I believe, is repairing the wall in Nicosia that collapsed. And that's a huge project. Everybody was horrified when the medieval wall fell down in one area. How is that progressing?
So, as the time is passing, and after these last 2 winters with heavy raining, we have much more problems, and we try to manage even to offer first support. About the walls of Nicosia, they started. The contractors are there. It will be a cost of 300,000 euros for the correction, I can say, for the project of the walls, of the collapsing part of the walls. So I hope that in the next few months we will be in position to see the walls repaired.
Back how they were.
Yeah.
And the walls, of course, are part and parcel of the whole character of Nicosia.
Yes, really, it's something very important, and we gave a great priority to these things immediately after the collapse of the walls. We re-examine our program and we adjust it to give a priority to the walls.
That is Tagis Hagidimitriou, co-president of the Bicommunal Technical Committee for Cultural Heritage. And let's hope that we don't lose any more of our monuments, especially in this appalling weather we've had this year. On last week's programme, if you were with us, you will have heard about The Queens of Amathus, a film that premiered in Nicosia on Sunday. Joining us on this week's programme is the man behind that film, who has actually formed a charity which will benefit from the screenings. He is Panikos Panayiotou from Lagis Greek Kitchen, a charity in Birmingham in the UK. So tell us about Lagis Greek Kitchen, if you will.
So LGK, which is Lagis Greek Kitchen in the community, was a charity founded in 2014. Those of you who have been on the website or know anything about it or type it into the internet, straight away you'll see a logo with a man with a beret, which is my father. So the charity was set up in memory of my father, who passed away sadly from cancer in 2012. So the moral of the story, or the history of the story, is that he half built a Greek taverna in his garden in Birmingham, and there was a group of Greek Cypriots that came over to Birmingham, Birmingham being specialist in liver transplants with a rare condition called amyloidosis that basically paralyses you from the toes upwards and then is terminal in the long run unless you have a liver transplant. So one of these particular families was a relation of a relation, and we started to get close to most of the families that were there, in which I decided one day I wanted to help them, to see how we can support them in their living expenses, because the Ministry of Health was paying for their liver transplant but not for the waiting time and for their residency in the UK, Birmingham specifically, until they had liver transplant. So basically, got a very, very long story short, I decided to complete the taverna, my father's dream. So a couple of the guys that were married or partners of the of the people waiting for a liver transplant joined me, and we built the restaurant. Now, as a job in Birmingham, I'm the head of sport of the Birmingham City Council, so I've got quite a large network of people. So I did a hit list of different people who I thought I'd like to invite. I got a temporary event notice and then opened up a Greek taverna in the garden, and from day one I was packed. And then what we then did, all the profits went to the families. So that's how the charity started, and then we then registered the charity as a registered UK charity, and then we've been doing the pop-up Greek taverna since 2014, and we open 2 months a year, May and June. So we're on season 7, I think now, our 7th or 8th year, or season 8. And every year now we hunt down individuals in need, because we raise anything in between 6,000 to 7,000 to 8,000 profit. And what we do, we take 2 families or 2 individuals and we half that money, because we feel, as I work in the charity sector, I feel that if you give it to an individual in need rather than a charity, it goes further.
And are they still people who are waiting for liver transplants, or have you widened the base?
We've widened the base now. We're not a amyloidosis-based charity. We're all about helping individuals in need that have got serious medical conditions, or either terminally ill or so forth. Not just exclusive to Cyprus, but we work with the local area as well, because we're based in Birmingham. We've got to help people that are around us as well. But we always try that one of the people that we help are from Cyprus, and then the other one is a local. We also have a food bank. So in Birmingham, there's the Frankfurt German markets that come every year. Everyone loves them. Everyone loves markets. Very Christmassy.
The Christmas markets.
Yeah, very Christmassy. We do the close down. So when it closes, we take all the food. We're talking about 4,000 bratwurst sausages. Have you seen how big they are? They're longer than my arm.
And so where's this food bank?
So what we do a festive food bank, and we work with charities and hostels and so forth. And then we have one of the sports centres that's within my remit. All the charities come there and they take an allocation, and then we also do a family drop-off. We've got a big long list of family drop-offs. So this year we managed to cater for 3,500 needy people. And then the Greek Cypriot community in Birmingham, what they do, because most of them are in catering, they top up our allocation from the German markets. So you can imagine we've got pita bread, we've got chicken kebab, we've got all the Greek Cypriot type catering stuff added onto our allocation, and it really does go out quite far in terms of outreach, because as a Greek Cypriot in England, we know how to eat, and then come Christmas time, we've got so much food there. But if you think about it, there's people that have got nothing, and I feel better about giving out food rather than overindulging. I've read somewhere, by the way, that we have more than 12,000 extra calories over the festive period. So imagine if you never had that 12,000 calories and you gave it to someone else that was more in need. I would prefer. Would you?
Who does the cooking at Lagos Greek Kitchen?
It's a family affair. So we're specialists in gleftigo. Right now, you won't find gleftigo in England. I have people come up from London to my taverna and say there's nothing like this in London. So I built a massive clay oven. I've grown up around, my father was a builder, so it comes naturally to me. So we basically prepare in the morning a secret gleftigo recipe, which is a secret, hence why I can't tell you what it is. And we load anything between 150 to 250 pieces of gleftigo. So lamb, chicken and beef. And we also have a vegetarian menu, we also have a barbecue. So I do have a chef that does the barbecue, but we cook the gleftigo, which is self-efficient because you load it in the morning. By the time you open at 5 o'clock, all you do is pull out the silver foil and whack it on a plate, a bit like prison food. But it's not like prison food. So we do the cooking, we do the preparation. We've got a big team of volunteers. It's not a job. The atmosphere's electric. People come there, they feel the atmosphere. I use it as a networking exercise as well, you know, people that I work with, MPs and so forth, I invite them all to eat. I've had Jamie Oliver's team there. I've had interest from, you may or may not know them, the Hairy Bikers, which we're trying to get them to come so we can do cooking sessions with them and try and get like a bit of a session on Channel 4. It's not a normal restaurant, by no means.
But the point is it's all about the charity, isn't it? Let's
yeah.
come back to where we started, and that's the film premiere in Nicosia on Sunday. How did it go? Was it packed? And what sort of funds did you raise that presumably you'll be able to put into the pot for this year?
The Nicosia one was electric. Honestly, bringing this documentary back to its roots was more emotional for me than when we did it in Birmingham. I've watched that documentary over 100 times. And yesterday, I just can't explain. I don't have words. The emotion in the room, the reaction, it was priceless.
Are you going to show it anywhere else in Cyprus?
We've already been approached last night, basically, to do a Limassol premiere, and then we'll give it to other cities before we give it to a channel. Back to your question about the funds. We haven't worked that out yet, so we're hoping we've got some good sponsors on board that have helped us cover the costs, and then any profit made will go back to the charity and its causes.
That is Panikos Panayodou from Lagis Greek Kitchen in Birmingham, who's been in Cyprus for the premiere of The Queens of Amathus. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.